Welcome to Wrasslin Raw! All right, you're listening to Wrasslin Raw, the podcast that takes you back to when Raw became war and Attitude ruled. Thank you for joining us. You're here with Ryan Arico.
Bartlett, I'm going to stick these two fingers deep inside your trembling, flabby jaws.
Goozled, if you will. Joe Gimateo.
They're speaking English now. They're saying Rocky sucks.
I'm the one and only Jason Bartlett. We're going to examine WWE history one pay-per-view at a time. That's right, folks. This is a special pay-per-view episode, so pay-per-view stipulations are in effect. We're going to be giving our star ratings. Joe's going to be talking about Dave Meltzer's star ratings. We're going to decide whether or not we got our money's worth. It's going to be a Donnybrook.
A melee, if you will.
No, he's not at the table tonight talking.
Nevertheless.
That didn't stop Jerry Lawler from throwing out a melee or two.
That's true. That's true.
Say it.
In his ears, say it. In this episode of Wrasslin Raw, we're going to be talking about the 1997 Survivor Series, a little-known pay-per-view that very few people have ever talked about.
No one ever remembers it. I don't know why.
Yeah.
Yeah, the first couple matches were real bangers. I'm not sure why people don't remember.
Well, it can be noted that it was great because it did not feature Vince McMahon on commentary. That's certainly a notable note.
That calls
Nor
for
will
celebration.
It ever again.
Yeah.
Well, the 97 Survivor Series was recorded on November 9th, 1997 at the Molson Center in Montreal, Quebec, Canada, and features Jim Ross and Jerry the King Lawler on commentary. Are you guys ready?
I'm ready.
Ready.
All right, then, let's get into it. We've got a great video package highlighting the tumultuous history between Shawn Michaels and Bret Hart. This was doing more to get us ready for that championship match than the previous few weeks of Raw. Just didn't feel like there was a whole lot of emphasis put on the importance of the championship leading into this. The fans there in Montreal were very much all about the Hitman. I hope they wound up enjoying this show. I know I probably would have. I especially loved using a French-speaking ring announcer as we went into our first match of the night. The New Age Outlaws and the Godwins defeat the Headbangers and the New Blackjacks by pinfall in 15 minutes and 27 seconds in a Survivor Series elimination match. I'll just get it out of the way at the top of our first match. This is my least favorite pay-per-view, my least favorite match format. I am not going to hesitate to let that affect my opinions at all, but I'll just not repeat that again. I love that the Headbangers are still carrying around that taped-up boombox. That's fucking fantastic. Yeah. Talk about a gimmick, brother. I also loved the Road Dogg yelling, "Hello, you maple leaf-loving freaks," at the start of his little entryway segment there. The rest of that intro was pretty cringy and dated, but the first line was good. Phineas was by far the least in-shape person in the ring, and with the Road Dogg there, that says something. I liked Bradshaw and Henry Godwin in the ring together. They're both big brutes. Look like they can work pretty stiff, so that wasn't too offensive to the eye. Wyndham almost dropped Phineas on his head. That was enjoyable. And I really thought that this crowd was kind of weird. I don't know, maybe it was like a Quebec thing, but there were very long stretches of absolute silence. I mean, not a surprise there. But then like a huge pop for something, and then silence, and then really loud booing, and then silence. It made me wonder if there was like a cultural difference there. You know, we've heard people say that the crowd reaction in Japan is much different than it is here. Wonder if there's a Quebecois crowd reaction stereotype. One thing the crowd could really agree on, though, is that they all believed Billy Gunn to be homosexual. They repeated that multiple times with much more crass language than I'm using here. The King wanted Phineas to get riled up and start with the mule kicks. I wanted Phineas to get the hell out of the ring. And I really liked Bradshaw's gut-wrench powerbomb on Road Dogg. That looked great. And the finish of this match was fucking terrible. Road Dogg fumbled through a pump handle slam. Billy Gunn tried for a leg drop from the corner. It missed its target by about 1.5 feet. But I was happy, though. it was over. And I ended up going with 1 star on this. I didn't hate it, but there were enough good spots in it to kind of cancel out the shitty spots, I guess. Joe, what'd you think of this?
Not good. I think that it wasn't really terrible. I am not a hater of Survivor Series format matches, but for me, they have to have some kind of substance to them. This didn't really have that. It just kind of put together random teams. I don't know. I didn't really have any highlights from this match at all, but I did end up giving it 1 star because I think that everybody in the ring is a pretty decent wrestler. So there was really nothing terrible there, but yeah, 1 star for me.
Well, for me, I'm kind of in Bartlett's camp, so we're going to be 2-on-1 in our disdain for Survivor Series style matches. They kind of suck and are boring to me. I don't know how else to put it. And sadly, this one kind of followed that pattern. And it's not that we didn't have some decent wrestlers in there. We did. It's just when you get them in this, 4-on-4 style, it just never seems to really work for me. Because of that, it just kind of slogged along for a little while, but I was also a little surprised by the crowd, and they got a huge pop for the headbangers a few times, which really, I was like, why are they so up on the headbangers? 1, they're American, and 2, they're kind of a forgotten about tag team at this point. Another interesting thing, though, is King brings up to JR that Vince is in the back dealing with some stuff and that they will talk about that later. That's kind of interesting. I wonder what they may be dealing with back there. In the end, the Blackjacks and the the Blackjack and the Headbangers, the fact that the Headbangers came out with the taped up boombox, the New Age Outlaws came out with the still busted up new Blackjack hats, that bumped it up to a 1 star for me, so I'm right there with you two, giving it 1 star.
What did Meltzer think of this, Joe?
He gave it a dud, and he didn't have any comments about the match. He just kind of recapped the match and didn't really give any thoughts other than dud rating.
Yeah, I think, Joe, you made a really good point about how, the storytelling in them, and I think that's what holds me back on a lot of these Survivor Series elimination matches. We do get an exception to that later on, kind of, but it's so hard to tell a good story in this format, once a year. I don't know. You wind up with patriotic teams and...
Not to tip my hand, but I think you're probably talking about the same one I am. There is one tonight that a group does exactly that. They get the match over just because of the faction involved and the storytelling they do in the ring. And if that isn't there, they fall flat.
Yeah, absolutely. Like this match did. All right. Well, hey, speaking of one good turn deserves another, let's go to our next match. The Truth Commission defeats the Disciples of Apocalypse by pinfall in 9 minutes and 59 seconds in a Survivor Series elimination match. So we're going to start with dud for obvious reasons. I hated the Jackal getting on the microphone. I didn't want to hear from him at all. He sucks. He needs to just immediately go away and never come back and never rear his stupid fucking head again. And that's it. This was a dud. 10 minutes of my life wasted. Ryan, what'd you think of this?
Yeah, started off obviously a dud. Holy shit. Is it remotely possible to shove as many pieces of shit in the ring than they did for this one? You got the fucking Truth Commission and the Honey Dippers all smashed into one match, and there's no shocker this was going to be a dud from the very start. And to really hammer that point home, the Jackal, since he came to this faction late, after they got rid of the Commandant, did you notice that they apparently weren't able to find the same shade of green for his shirt? I don't know if the dollar store Halloween section was cut down and they had to go find a different shirt for him, but his is completely different shade of green. That and the match made this an absolute dud. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, it's really not possible to squeeze any more trash into that ring, I don't think. On the Jackal, I don't remember the Jackal wrestling this much. I only remember him as a manager with the trench coat. So I don't know if that's maybe later on or what. But yeah, this was really bad. I gave it a dud. I have nothing else to say about it. Dave Meltzer gave this -1.5 stars.
Very fitting.
Said the purpose of this match was to get the interrogator over, but he looked really bad and did not get any heat.
Did you notice he has one move, the sidewalk slam, and that's it?
And not even all that well.
Well, he yells.
It's the only move the interrogator does. He pins 4 people with a sidewalk slam.
And just yells.
He does like to strain his neck muscles while he's yelling, too. I mean,
yeah.
Yeah, that Walmart Halloween outfit only comes in one size. Monster. Doesn't fit the Jackal. That's why they had to go with a different color. All right, let's move it along. Something a little uplifting. I kind of liked this. I like that they have been doing this in a lot of their pay-per-views. We got a video of fans outside the arena there weighing in on the championship match. There was actually a female fan among them. I was surprised. Again, Quebecois. Maybe it's a Northern Canada thing. And then a glorious sight, gentlemen. Kevin, oh my God, Kelly, in the America Online chat. I know, right? I was thinking that. They trotted out Michael Cole in front of us how many times tonight? Half of them sucked. But Kevin, oh my God, Kelly, nailed this with every word out of his mouth.
In the closet with a couple laptops.
The America Online chat room. With a very surly-looking Stone Cold Steve Austin sitting on a bench by the computers. Austin cut a decent enough promo for the situation there, I guess. And we also got highlights and an update about Steve Blackman, that fan that rushed the ring in Hershey, PA last week, and a breakdown of how he ended up included in all of this. That cut to Michael Cole interviewing Team America. He went to Vader first, and Vader clearly forgot his lines as he stared off into space for what felt like an eternity. Before finally cutting a promo to introduce the team. And for the record, Team America is Vader, Goldust, Mark Marrow, Sable, I guess, and Steve Blackman. I'll just pause it here and we'll keep it brief. But Ryan, first, what'd you think of our introduction to Team America and Steve Blackman specifically here?
Well, first, I'm going to start with, oh my God, Kelly. That was great to see America Online chat room coming back. It's been a few pay-per-views since they showed us this. And I guess the America Online room consists of one nerd typing away on 3 laptops. And that's it. And he's tucked away in the corner of a small locker room. Michael Cole and Vader, well, mainly Vader, and yeah, that is, it's a pretty typical Vader promo, let's be serious. Vader is usually pretty shit on the mic, and he continues to do that here. But hey, we got Steve Blackman. They tell us he's going to be there. They now allow random fans, if they come in assault superstars, you could get in the ring. So I'm glad they let us know that.
Yeah, the AOL chat rooms it's easy to shrug those off now, but those were a pretty big deal back in the day. So,
oh yeah, always
cool to see that. And I'm happy they got a nerd to do all the typing and not have to watch Shawn Michaels try to type this time. And Steve Blackman, you guys are ripping Vader, but he bailed Steve Blackman out of jail. So say what you want.
That is true.
He's a true American and the leader of Team America.
God, that what you said just now made me feel more patriotic about Vader than anything they've done in the past few weeks of a lead up to this.
God bless America.
God damn it. All right. Yeah, fucking Vader. Like, I laughed out loud and Vader just zoned. And you could see, it was hearing the cartoon, birds twittering, while he was staring off into space. All right. Well, that took us into our next match. Team Canada, and that is the British Bulldog, the American Jim Neidhart, the American Doug Furness, and Canadian Phil LaFawn, defeats Team America as previously listed by pinfall in 17 minutes and 47 seconds in a Survivor Series elimination match. I really wanted to be fair going into this because it was Steve Blackman's first time in a match, so learning curve, I bet. But at about the time that Phil LaFawn, the one with the extremely bad knees, tried to stutter step his way out of an Irish whip and fell down because of it, I gave up on being impartial here. To be clear, Blackman looked pretty good for the most part, as long as he was in his comfort zone, but when it came to things like setting up that crucifix pin attempt with Phil LaFawn, it was clearly his first time, and that's fine. He has room to learn. I did like Jim Neidhart getting sent back to the locker room before he could have a heart attack in the ring. He was sucking some major wind. I don't understand how that's healthy. He looks like he learned how to work out in like a Lamaze class. Like... Mero looking decent with the punches, sticking to his boxer thing. Very little backsliding here. And I wasn't very sure what the deal with Goldust was. He had FU painted on his face, supposedly meaning forever unchanged, according to JR. Mm-hmm. Goldust also had a broken hand and was refusing to be tagged in, which that kind of interested me. I did like Vader slapping Goldust, throwing him into the ring. But that only made Goldust walk out, so I'm guessing we're going to have a program between Goldust and Vader now. Here's hoping. I'm actually a little bit hopeful about that with Goldust here. Maybe we'll get some fresh paint on Goldust.
That says FU.
Yeah. And eventually the match ended with the Bulldog hitting Vader with the ring bell. So this match was pretty much just the Vader show. It was also a dud. Joe, what'd you have on it?
Oh, man. Steve Blackman... looks like a real badass, I guess.
He does.
He looks like an action movie guy.
Yeah.
So he looks good, but he got eliminated early, so that ruined this entire thing, pretty much. And Furnace and LaFawn and Jim the Anvil Neidhart should not be on our television screens, let alone on a pay-per-view. You kidding me? You kidding me?
I mean, this was Team Canadian, right? There was only one
correct
Canadian on the team.
Well, yeah, and Furnace and LaFawn, they're just terrible, and they haven't even been around.
Wow, Sid put him in the hospital.
That filthy American Sid.
That damn moonroof.
And no, Goldust, it's forever unchained, like the
Unchained.
Van Halen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Because if you remember, he's freed himself from his wife Terry now.
That was
right. on the broken hand was
That's
free
right.
at last, I believe.
No more ball and chain.
No more of that miserable bitch that has apparently been controlling his life from behind the scenes for all of these years and just ruining him as a man.
Right. And, the other thing is this match really featured Vader a lot, so I guess I have no choice but to give this a dud.
Yeah, I mean, we start off, we learned that the Patriot was injured. We learned that last week and wasn't going to be here, but that doesn't stop us to come out to Kurt Angle's music for Team USA. I thought that was a little bit comical. And then Steve Blackman, he comes down to the ring in a lot more white than I remember from a guy named Blackman. I remember, he had that on that white, what do they call them? Those dojo jackets.
The gi.
The gi.
Yeah. It was always all black from what I remember, but his was white tonight. And JR points out that there's only one Canadian on this team. I'm glad that he's just, they're pointing out the obvious. At one point, the King makes a comment about Mark Mero when he's in there getting his ass kicked that he thinks he's Michael Moore against Evander Holyfield. And man, I remember that match. That was the rematch, number 2, Moore Evander number 2. I watched that on the cheater box like I watched the wrestling. So that was a nice drop we got. And then I thought Blackman looked really solid in the ring, probably the best out of anyone in there. It was short-lived and he's obviously very green, but he looked entertaining and like a badass, Joe. Like you said, he just looks like a badass. But I was a little confused when he got eliminated. He gets knocked out of the ring and counted out, and then Vader has to go to explain to him what happened and that, oh, you got counted out. And I'm thinking, so he's a big enough fan of wrestling that last week he bought a ticket to a wrestling event.
Front row.
Yet he doesn't understand the count out rule. That scares and confuses him. I know what I mean? But that's wrestling. We'll move on. I'm not going to care about it that much, just like the crowd didn't care about this match. The only person they kept on chanting for was Sable. That's it. Sable was the only one that got over. The Vader show, as you both stated. This was the Vader show, and he gets put down by a weak ash bell shot by the Bulldog.
Oh, yeah.
And that really, really helped solidify the dud status of this match with how weak that bell hit was.
Yeah, well, let's not forget that Ahmed Johnson has been sucking the life force of the people around him for a couple months now. The British Bulldog is half the man he once was.
He is.
So.
He's taken at least 50 pounds from the Bulldog.
What'd Meltzer think of this?
Very confusing. So again, there were no comments really. He just recapped the match and he gave it 2.5 stars.
Oh,
okay.
Not sure why.
His love of Vader, I guess.
Probably a big Furnace and LaFawn fan, I'm guessing, since they wrestled in Japan.
The Japanese circuit.
Well, we went to commentary after that to announce the winner of the Super Supper Sweepstakes. And this time, the winner was actually a real person on the phone and watching Survivor Series while they were answering the phone. So, I mean, it was already better than every other contest they've done in every other pay-per-view.
Wonder if they double-checked this time, like that they were actually watching.
The lady that won wants dinner with Stone Cold Steve Austin. I know I'd like to get threatened with an ass whooping every 2 minutes while I'm eating my salad. After that, there was a really well done video package highlighting the Kane story thus far, including how we got to his match with Mankind. I still love Mankind saying that Kane destroyed Dude Love's innocence. What a poetic statement. We went to a Mankind backstage promo pre-match. That was great shit. It was classic Mankind, and it got me excited as hell for what was going to be coming. That is our next match. Kane with Paul Bearer defeats Mankind by pinfall in 9 minutes and 29 seconds. I loved JR saying that Kane has a lot of unexplained power. Like, just, he's supernatural, folks. He's a fucking twin, and he's burned. He's got powers. I love it.
I mean, I'd say his power comes from his fucking 320-pound frame, but...
And the burns.
The burns. Hellfire and brimstone.
I also loved JR calling Mick Foley inspirational. Like at this point in time, like, you'd never think you'd hear those words come out of anybody's mouth, much less a man that got goozled with the mandible claw. And really, who better to put over Kane in his first match than Mick Foley? Mankind was working hard in this match, and so was Kane. I don't know if it was the nostalgia or just maybe common sense, but Kane was looking far, far better than Fake Diesel or Isaac Yankem ever did. I loved Mankind hitting Paul Bearer with the mandible claw. That was a great visual. It got Paul all ruffled and sweaty and tousled looking there at the outside.
Sweaty jowls.
Speaking of, Kane doing a one-handed throw to send Mankind through the Spanish announce table. Also, great visual. Great visual. And the body slam from the top rope to the floor. Kane made it happen, but Mankind made it real. By God. I could see the pieces of bone just chipping from his pelvis. And the one thing I will say that was a bit of a disappointment was Kane winning with just a single tombstone. I mean, this was admittedly a rough match, but I feel like Triple H and Mankind had much more brutal and exciting matches on Raw, as you know, compared to what this was. So I was a little conflicted about that. I ended up going with a very solid 3 stars here. The match was good. I was very entertained by it. I appreciate what they did here, but maybe I built it up too much in my head. I got myself too hyped out. It wasn't nearly as exciting as I thought it was going to be. Still, I mean, solid 3 stars. You know, I guess I was maybe expecting a 4. Ryan, what'd you think of this?
You know, I highly enjoyed this match. Starting with the setup, Mankind's promo was absolutely fantastic, saying that Kane is like a big brick wall and he's just going to keep throwing himself at it and he may die doing so. I mean, there's no one that delivers a promo quite like Mankind and Mick, and he really had it on fire in this promo. And the match, I thought, was great from the very beginning. We start, outside and they're brutal. Kane tosses Mankind a few times into the steps like a rag doll. We get into the ring and the lights stay red. We brought that up a couple weeks ago. I don't think that's something they're going to do continuing or going forward, but it is something a little extra here, adds something a little extra. We also see that Captain Wiener himself, Earl Hebner, is the ref here, and he doesn't call a DQ for anything. I mean, they didn't say this was a no DQ match, did they?
No, I don't remember that.
But that's exactly how it was treated. Not that I care. I mean, I just, for consistency, make it a DQ match and so that these guys could just beat the piss out of each other. Because that is what happens. Glenn Bartlett, you alluded to, he looks 10 times better than he ever did as Fake Diesel or Isaac Yankem. And I don't know if he just continued to work on his ring work or if just everything about this character fits him better. But he looks 100 times better in the ring. And when he tossed Mankind from the ring apron, that one-handed toss, when they show it in slow motion, obviously Mick got his foot up on the rope at the right time to springboard himself. But to me, that just adds to how great that spot worked. I mean, it was just perfect timing by both guys and it looked great on camera. We get Mick's exposed concrete hip slam. The moment he hit that, I could just see the pictures of him limping around in modern day, just because, that absolutely murders him. I was a little bit disappointed that it was just one tombstone, but I thought the setup of it was really good. The way they had Mankind, he's already got the balls beat off him, and he's crawling to Kane's feet, basically saying, finish this, give me the tombstone, and let's get this over with. So to me, the match was great and it did a awesome job of putting Kane over on his path to the Undertaker. So I ended up going with the 4-star that you were looking for.
Yeah, I agree with a lot of the stuff you guys have said, and you've touched on it already, but I'm just really, really impressed by Glenn Jacobs as Kane right now. And, think about where this guy has come from. You guys talked about Isaac Yankem and Fake Diesel. I mean, just think about that and look at where he is now. I mean, he's really in a really good spot here, and he's doing a really good job with making this monster gimmick look as realistic as you can. And, we're joking about him having supernatural powers. It is ridiculous, but this is still awesome. Why is it still awesome? I can't answer that question, but he does a great job here. Mick Foley, obviously, as Mankind here is doing what he can to put him over, but I think this is Kane's first real match, and I thought he looked awesome. I thought the table spot was great, and just his performance in particular was really good, so I gave it 3 stars.
Mm-hmm. What did Meltzer think of it?
He also gave it 3 stars. He said that Mankind did an excellent job of carrying Kane by taking big bumps on the steps.
Yeah, it was I guess maybe not a surprise given how much time he's had to prepare for it, but a shocker. You wouldn't think that Glenn Jacobs could wrestle like this based on Isaac Yankem or Fake Diesel. Maybe the extra time, the extra training, who knows. All right, so let's, where are we going next here? Michael Cole, that pencil neck geek, he was backstage with Vince McMahon and Commissioner Slaughter.
Or was that Mr. McMahon?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, the perception and use of Vince McMahon here tonight was definitely different, we'll say, at this point, certainly.
This is where the event started to feel weird.
Yes.
It was not a normal pay-per-view event.
Yeah. They were there to assure everybody that extra security measures have been instituted for one of the championship matches. It took JR on commentary to clarify for us that he was referring to Shawn versus Brett, and that is when we went into our next match. The Road Warriors, Ahmed Johnson and Ken Shamrock, defeat the Nation of Domination, ultimately by submission in 20 minutes and 34 seconds in a Survivor Series elimination match. Ahmed Johnson just gets more and more disgusting to look at every time I see him. Worse here.
More oily.
Yeah. I was surprised at Hawk getting eliminated early, and I did wonder if he maybe got hurt or something. It wouldn't be a surprise with Ahmed Johnson there in the ring, but it just seemed like the tenor of the match changed like right before he got sent out, so I don't know. Farouk definitely looked like he was trying to hurt Ahmed Johnson, so that was fun as hell to see. There were some really stiff-looking like knees to the ribs and just some really good shit out of Farouk here. And I really, really, really loved D'Lo Brown whipping the shit out of Ahmed in the corner with that leather strap. He got in as many licks as he could there. But I really hated Ahmed's Ultimate Warrior rally. That was against D'Lo Brown. He no-sold like 8 punches to the face in a row from D'Lo before getting up and jogging in place. Fuck him. I was so glad to see him get eliminated. There ended up being a ton of feedback through the house PA system. I don't know what happened. It must have been like at just the right frequency to stun Canadians, though, because the whole crowd got silent and stopped cheering until it was over. I was definitely happy to have Rocky and D'Lo left for the nation. That's not a slight against Farouk or Kama at all, but, I mean, it's Rocky and D'Lo. Come on, man. I was very, very pleased that they had time to shine in this match. I didn't like the New Age Outlaws coming out to fuck with Animal. They threw some kind of like powder-like substance into Animal's face, and Animal was blinded. That got him counted out because he was wandering around out at the outside. But that just meant that we had Ken Shamrock left against Rocky and D'Lo, 3 people that I love seeing in the ring. And this is the match that I was talking about earlier, the Survivor Series match, where this is storytelling within a Survivor Series elimination match that I can absolutely get behind. We got, not that LOD is riffraff at all, but, you know, we got the other people out of the way early, leaving the cream of the crop to rise to the top here in these 3 gentlemen. And I love it. I love these 3 guys, and it was so fucking excited to see them in the ring together. It got down to just Ken and Rocky. I loved Ken like barely kicking out of everything. I love the way that Shamrock sells this shit, and Shamrock ended up getting the win with the ankle lock. Fucking perfect way to end it. And yeah, that's it. So like I said, once most of the competitors got out of there, I loved this. Unfortunately, that wasn't until toward the end of the match, though, so, you know, I do have to keep things on balance, and with that in mind, I ended up giving this a very, very solid 2 stars, and that is saying something because that is probably my highest rated Survivor Series elimination match ever. Joe, please, what did you think of it?
Yeah, I really like how you recapped that match. I would say it's like 4 quarters. You split it up into 4 quarters, and the 4th quarter was really exciting, but everything leading up to it was not so great.
Yeah.
I am just sick of Ahmed Johnson at this point. And
God.
this is now, I think this is the 2nd time we've seen him do that Ultimate Warrior hulking up thing, and I absolutely hate it so much. And I hate having to see guys like Rocky Maivia have to sell to Ahmed Johnson because they're above that. You know, Rocky is above that. Ken Shamrock is above that, which, by the way, Ken Shamrock should be getting that push that Ahmed Johnson has been getting, which it seems like he maybe is now. He had a match with Bret Hart. He had a match with Shawn Michaels, and now he's being featured here with against Rocky Maivia at the end here. So, you know, this match definitely had its bad parts, but, you know, that 4th quarter got me up for sure. So I give it 2 stars because of that, you know, even though I cannot stand Ahmed Johnson at this point. And I've really hated all of these Survivor Series matches for the most part tonight, but I thought this match displayed the right people, which mainly Rocky and Ken.
Yeah, this was, out of the Survivor Series matches, this was definitely the most entertaining to watch, at least because of the last 5 minutes of it. One thing that definitely has to be pointed out is the Nation is a, you know, finely oiled machine at this point. They are a good heel faction. Ever since they shed Crush and Ahmed Johnson, they've really been picking things up and bringing it. And I thought that they did. They made this Survivor Series match, really. Plus Ken. And I'm going to skip most of the beginning and just kind of focus on the end part. Once we have D'Lo Brown, Rock, and Shamrock left, it really, really picked up. And one of my my favorite things was a very simple throwaway spot where the Rocky does a low blow on Shamrock, and D'Lo just does this like cartoon squirming around, grabbing his crotch, mocking Shamrock. And I just laughed my head off because D'Lo Brown is just, he's a beautiful man. I don't know, he's he's fucking beautiful.
D'Lo and Paul Bearer, the most beautiful men in wrestling.
They're 1 and 2 there. Just so glad to have D'Lo and starting to do his D'Lo-like head movements and antics in the ring. Really looking forward to that. And then Shamrock and The Rock, when they're together, they have a great outing there. We get the full-on people's elbow. He's pulling off the elbow pad, the dramatic wind-up. He has it all. But Shamrock kicks out of it, so it's not quite a finisher yet. And then Shamrock snaps. And that's been fantastic. Every time they show him snap, it's been good. And here he quickly eliminates 2 people. So he's definitely getting a push. Best storytelling out of any of these Survivor Series matches by far. And if it wasn't for the 15 minutes of shit to lead up to the final push of this match, it could have been a 3-star, but I ended up going exactly in the same spot as you guys with 2.
Yeah, I'm really happy that we all wound up there. I almost for a minute thought that I was maybe underselling this match with the 2 stars, but like I said, with my track record with this type of match, I felt 2 stars was more than fair. What'd Meltzer think of this?
He seemed to be in agreement with us. He gave it 2 3/4 stars.
Okay.
And he said the purpose of this match was to get Shamrock over as one of the top echelon guys, and it seemed that goal was accomplished.
Yeah. And also to get D'Lo Brown over as one of the most beautiful men in wrestling.
Yep.
Yeah.
That worked as well.
Mission accomplished. All right. So after this, we got the first ever view of D-Generation's music and Titantron video. Very, very cool to see. I always loved this video. I loved it when they had it up on the screen because of all of the sultry nightlife imagery that's in it. The women doing stripper moves on wrestling equipment.
Degenerate.
It's so very 90s. And that is to promote the next pay-per-view that's going to be in your house, D-Generation X, coming up in December. After that, a video package highlighting the history of Stone Cold Steve Austin. And note, I said Stone Cold and not the Ringmaster. Thankfully, we're pretending like that never happened. This picked up literally at his first match, not as the Ringmaster. And that took us into our next match. Stone Cold Steve Austin defeats Owen Hart with Team Canada at the outside by pinfall in 4 minutes and 4 seconds to win the Intercontinental Championship. I loved the little set piece Austin had to break through that didn't break. It was pretty funny. He had to put his shoulder into it to keep elbowing it out of the way. I also loved Jim Neidhart getting a stunner right off the bat. Fuck that guy. Perfect timing. When Owen and Austin were at the outside, I had to laugh seeing the Spanish announce table monitors set up down on the floor. Tito Santana and Carlos Cabrera were sitting in chairs looking down at them.
Those indestructible monitors.
There was a botched tilt-a-whirl something. I didn't get a chance to finish, but that just led to a stunner and Stone Cold getting the victory. So I know we had to be careful here because of Austin's neck. This is a 4-minute match, but this match really felt kind of anticlimactic to me, especially given the lead up and the weeks of stunners and making sure Owen still held the belt. And, Austin can't do much, but something just feels like they could have done a little more than this. I don't know. I am not that bum of a doctor in Philadelphia practicing for cartons of cigarettes, so I'm not qualified to judge this at all.
Give me another carton and I'll let you know.
But I did give this a solid 2 stars. Ryan, what'd you think of it?
Even the Canadian crowd was cheering for Austin when he came out, so I guess that's why they're going to give us this match, regardless if he's ready to come back or not, because the crowd wants him there regardless. And, it started out great. I also loved Anvil running in and immediately getting his goateed ass stunned and thrown the fuck out. That was entertaining. And then I also liked them teasing the pile driver from Owen. You know they had to do that. Yeah. Of course, it wasn't going to happen. We get okay action between them, and then it just ends. I mean, kind of a squash match, really, for Stone Cold over Owen, and I suppose it was always going to be that, but with all of the buildup that we've had, it does feel like a little bit of a letdown, and I can't give it a dot or a 1 star because I don't think it was worth that. I landed exactly where you did on a 2 star. Just, I don't know. Yeah, just a little disappointed, I guess, coming away.
I'm not sure that we're going to see many Steve Austin matches from now on that are going to be above 3 stars.
Yeah.
I mean, we might see some that are just, have that entertainment factor to them, but we are officially in the kick, punch, and stun era of Stone Cold Steve Austin. He's not going to do much else because he just can't and shouldn't. So, in fact, he shouldn't even be wrestling in this match at all, But the fact that he is just puts him over even more because it really builds up that toughest SOB moniker that JR gives him. And JR even says that at the beginning when Austin is entering the ring. He's just really selling that fact, that he's just one tough SOB for even being here in this match. So, the match was not anything very exciting. It was 4 minutes, right? So, I mean, it is what it is, but I suppose that I will give it 2 stars. I think the reasons why it was not that great are quite obvious, but it's great to see this. And by the way, I loved the break his neck chant that started during this match. And all I could think of was Bret Hart telling us for months that Canada does not love violence like America does.
Well, now
they want this man to have a broken neck.
This is Quebec. They did try to secede from Canada. So, I mean, they're a different breed up there, I guess.
Yeah.
What'd Meltzer think about this?
Gave it 1 star. He said this match was short without a lot of bump taking since Austin's neck is injured to the point he really should not be working. This was Owen Hart's first match back after his concussion, and he really didn't seem to be ready to work either.
Oof. Yeah. Well, see, I didn't even realize that part of it, and it goes quite a long way of explaining some things, I think.
Yeah, we forgot about the Ahmed Johnson leg drop.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, we had a nice little video package on the reality of the wrestling business after that. I enjoyed that. That was followed by a repeat of what I'm pretty sure was the exact same video package that we had to lead off the night. That's the one about Shawn and Bret. And we also had some footage of Shawn Michaels walking to the ring. He was there with Rick Rude, Chyna, Triple H was with him. And we got likewise from Bret, headed out to the ring with the Bulldog and the Anvil and some little kid carrying the Canadian flag. But in something that was, kind of surprising, dare I say weird, only the competitors themselves came out for our final match of the night. Shawn Michaels defeats Bret Hart by submission in 12 minutes and 11 seconds to win the WWF Championship, and that match time does not account for the significant amount of time spent brawling outside the ring prior to the bell. We did have a bell-to-bell match, but that was probably half of the total time these two spent locked up together. Shawn was pretty low-key going into all of this, very much not the usual energy level he brings during his entrances, although I did appreciate him scrubbing his taint with the Canadian flag a couple times and then power-fucking it in the ring. I mean, he wasn't completely out of character. Bret, very much the same. He had that troubled look that seems to be a Hart family trait. And that is where I had to stop myself from trying to read into things because, let's face it, the finish to this match is probably the single most talked about wrestling angle in the history of the business. And regardless of what we know now, there's no way we could have known back then, but I still found myself looking for signs and tells as if this hasn't been rehashed 1,000 times over and examined and poked and prodded. Michaels jump-started things. JR put it best at the start by calling this chaotic. And it wasn't long into the match before officials were everywhere, including Vince McMahon, Pat Patterson, Jerry Briscoe, Commissioner Slaughter, a whole slew of referees. JR let slip on commentary, first about at this point, and then once after, that Bret Hart's future with the company was in question. Bret and Shawn ended up in the crowd more than once, which I'm guessing was the excuse as to why so many officials were needed. And between the crowd, the officials, the fact that none of this was in the ring up to this point in my notes, this was hitting me like a clusterfuck. I didn't quite care for it. And they just kept getting farther away from the ring, too. Commentary kept mentioning that the match hadn't even started yet. That the bell hadn't even been rung, I mean. Whenever they got up to the top of the entryway, Vince was right there in clear cam review, standing over Bret and Shawn, yelling at them. The whole group of officials was following them everywhere they went. And this is where Vince and Vince's behavior started to kind of just scream at me as not natural. They did finally get in the ring. The bell did finally get rung. So I don't know if you guys saw these two signs in the crowd. From the hard camera, we're talking probably about 1 o'clock, top corner of the screen. Floor seating, 2 signs, thanks for the memories, Bret, and then right next to it, good luck in WCW.
Yeah.
So it really makes me wonder, you know? I loved Bret reversing the headlock in the corner into a flapjack slam on Shawn. That looked fantastic. And they were mostly staying in the ring at that point. Things looked a lot better as a result. The crowd of officials, they kind of disappeared, at least out of camera view somewhere. Couldn't really tell where. And this is where I finally started to get sucked into this match. But not necessarily because I thought it was a good or bad match, but because I kept getting sucked back into looking for hints of what was going to happen. I didn't care for the ref bump from Hebner, but that was just before the screw job happened. Shawn had that sharpshooter locked on. Hebner clearly calls for the bell. I didn't see Vince anywhere, even though he was at ringside telling Hebner to ring it. Bret tries to hook out of the sharpshooter just as the bell gets rung and almost immediately lets go of Shawn to look at Vince. And we did get to find out where the hitman gets his name from. Bret snorked up a loogie and with laser precision nailed Vince right in the eye with it. Shawn appeared to be disgusted by the turn of events. He quickly grabbed the belt and got out. And that is where we faded to black. So guys, as I said, I mean, this is the single most historic moment in the history of professional wrestling. How does a person even begin to try to unpack this, given that the attempt has been made many times by many people? I'll be the first to admit that it's kind of hard to have fresh eyes on a match that I've watched multiple times in the past. This has been talked about ad nauseum by every podcast out there, but I'm, going to try objectively. I honestly didn't think that this was that good of a match. It felt sloppy. I didn't like all the time spent outside of the ring at the start, and I didn't like how unusual it felt to have Vince creeping around the whole time watching it. I couldn't get over that really more than anything else. I ended up with 2 stars. Joe, please, what did you think of this?
Well, a couple things before I get into the match. So they did that video package right before this match. And normally a lot of these video packages are very good, but I thought this particular one was really shitty because it kind of painted Shawn Michaels to be a babyface, and he's not a babyface right now. He's a heel. So I hated that video package. They show both of these guys walking to the ring in the back, like in the locker room. And right there is it just had such an eerie feeling to it.
With that weird bass thump as they were walking.
The audio on this entire show was hot garbage. The whole show.
Yep.
It was hard to hear the real reaction, for Bret's entrance. You would think that it would have been a huge reaction, but the audio was so shitty that it was hard to hear. Jerry Lawler had already buried Kevin Dunn earlier in the show. I don't know if you guys caught that, but that was hilarious. Now, as far as the match, I mean, Vince being there, it's weird. We've never seen Vince out there yelling at 2 competitors to get back in the ring. It's just weird. Even when we know what's going to happen, it's still weird to see him there doing that. I thought that the match, everything before the match and the match itself, I thought it was okay. It was right in that 3-star territory for me, basically, like the whole time. I thought the stuff leading up to the bell, I guess, was chaotic, which I thought was appropriate given the two competitors that we're talking about here. They both hate each other. So I liked the chaos outside of the ring. The fans were also really into it. One thing that Dave Meltzer pointed out here that I thought was interesting was that, and it kind of goes with your comment, Bartlett, about the confusion with the WCW signs. Brett's notice was leaked within the past week. So that's why people knew about it.
In the America Online chat room 10 minutes ago, you mean?
Yeah. Yeah, or in the Torch or the Observer or whatever. But Dave Meltzer pointed out, he said that throughout this show, Bret Hart was kind of getting booed by this crowd because he was leaving. He was going to WCW. So he pointed out that Shawn Michaels doing all that shit with the flag actually kind of helped get heat on Shawn and take it away from Bret. So I thought that was pretty interesting to point that out. Good job by Shawn, I guess, bringing that heat back to him instead of, having them boo Bret Hart, which would have been kind of weird. But yeah, I mean, as far as the screw job finish goes, I mean, like you said, it's been talked about so much, but I just think the match just stayed in that 3-star territory for me. And these guys are clearly capable of having a 5-star match. So I guess that's a little disappointing.
Yeah, I mean, I'll start off with Joe. I landed right where you did on a 3-star. And to be honest, a match between Bret Hart and Shawn Michaels, a 3-star is kind of a letdown, Yeah. Even though typically you'd say a 3-star is a strong match, you would expect better from these two. And it comes down to them just not being able to get their shit together and work with each other. And obviously, this match is the climax of that problem. It's gonna hit a peak here and be done with by the end of it. As far as the actual wrestling, Bartlett, you hated the stuff before the match. I didn't mind it, out in the ring. I thought they did a pretty good job of keeping it fast-paced and just kind of beating on each other. It did get much better once they got into the ring and it started to look like a normal match. But again, as you two, I don't know if it's just because we know what happens, but seeing Vince and the Briscoes and the commissioner out there around ringside and trying to get them into the ring, it just looked a little bit odd, and again, it could just be us reading into something that we now know is there because hindsight is 2020, but there is something off about Vince McMahon's actions this evening. That's for sure. And then it happens. We get the sharpshooter put on to Bret by Shawn, and Earl Hebner calls for the bell and then immediately sprints out of the fucking building. Like, it was like a cartoon character where you see like the dust cloud, because he just disappears. Shawn Michaels, follows pretty quick, but Earl Hebner is already nowhere to be seen. Just absolutely gone.
That car was running.
It was. His brother got the car running. He had the wieners hot and ready to go in the passenger seat. And then Bret spits that loogie like a sniper into Vince's face, which we've seen before. Let's remember that. He did spit in Shawn's face with that amazing accuracy before. So you could just tell watching it that something wasn't right, especially with JR's reaction. He was like, what just happened? JR really sold the what the fuck just happened, this isn't normal, this isn't a work type of a reaction. And then it just goes off the air. So yeah, I stayed right at a 3-star, which makes it a fairly strong wrestling match. We'll talk about the repercussions of what happens here later. But as far as the wrestling goes, a little disappointed out of what we got out of these two.
Yeah. What else did Meltzer have to say about this?
Well, he gave it 3 3/4 stars. And again, he praised Shawn Michaels for the heat he was able to build here with all the flag stuff before the match.
Dry fucking the flag.
Yeah. He did say they had a very good match, and it probably would have been an excellent match had they gotten to work all the way to their own planned finish.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
Yeah. So before we move on, guys, I wanted to ask you both, and I'll throw my 2 cents in too. We've talked about this a few times in the months leading up to this. Was the screw job actually booked that way? Was it a legit screw job? Was it McMahon all along behind it? Has it been planned to be this way? Just a yes or no, and if you want to throw some extra info there, that's fine too. Joe, you first. Do you think that the Montreal screw job had been planned this way months in advance?
I do not. I feel that this is Vince just manipulating things because he made a deal with Brett that he regretted back a while ago. And he was deathly afraid of Eric Bischoff and WCW. Like I said, Eric Bischoff already teased Bret Hart coming to WCW last week on Nitro. So I don't think it was a work. I think it was real. I mean, it was planned, obviously, but I don't think it was worked months in advance. No.
That Bret Hart was in on it.
Right.
Correct.
I know we've, been joking about it for months, talking about all the conspiracy hints here and there. But Joe, I'm with you. No, I don't think it was a work. For me, what I always come back to is, as much as I love Bret Hart, he's a shitty actor. And this didn't look like shitty acting at the end here. So to me, that's what I always come back to. So no, I think it was just Vince McMahon screwing Bret Hart.
Yeah, I don't know that I'm as confident as you guys, but I'm going to say no also. As this, this makes me think of the people that like to get behind ridiculous conspiracy theories in other forms of life, government, whatever, companies. As much as you would love to think that these people are that insanely smart and talented, the fact of the matter is that the majority of people out there in positions of power and doing things like this are just barely getting along competently, let alone playing chess 10 months in advance, 9 months in advance, whatever it was.
9D chess,
about it. So, I mean, is it a fun thing to think about? Yes, absolutely. And there are so many things that you could point to support your claim. But ultimately, I just don't think anybody in the WWF was smart enough to book it that far out and to have it go, well, I guess succeed. If this is the plan, then it succeeded. And yeah, I'm not willing to give anybody that much credit. So, gentlemen, let's talk about the most important question of all. At a premium price of $29.95, did you get your money's worth? Ryan, why don't you take that first?
So we had a few decent matches here. The Mankind Kane match, the one Survivor Series match. This final match was serviceable as well. But I'm going to say yes, solely because this was history in the making. Obviously you wouldn't know that buying it, but to be able to say you watched this live, which I did and not paid for it, but that's besides the point. I think yes, got my money's worth because of the history.
Yeah, I mean, this event did not have any memorable wrestling aspects to it at all, but I have to say yes. I mean, yes, I got my money's worth. This is the type of event that after it's over, you're nowadays you're texting your friends, hey, did you see that shit? You're calling them. Or back in 97, you're going to school on Monday and you're talking to your buddies like, hey, did you see that? Like what happened?
And in this case, probably 3/4 of your buddies didn't see it. You would be the one informing them because, no, they didn't get the pay-per-view.
Right, yeah. So, I mean, I have to say yes. And then that loogie in Vince's face, I mean...
Poetic.
That is worth the $49, however much it costs. I don't even care what the price is.
Some people pay that much to get spit in the face of.
Yeah. I won't even tell you what Tony Atlas pays to get done to him. So, I don't know if I can honestly say this is one of those answers that I've got to be, semantic about, because since it's Survivor Series, I probably wouldn't have bought it just for that simple fact. But if for some reason, if I had, I'd say yes, I did get my money's worth just because of the milestones that we hit here. Kane's first match, that and Austin winning the IC belt, both slightly disappointing to me at least, but still huge milestones, and of course, getting to witness the screw job. It's just, you can't not get your money's worth with some of the biggest fucking events of the 90s happening in one show.
Well, and the other thing is 2 minor things that happened in this show that, obviously got overshadowed was, you mentioned the D-Generation X, the debut of that song.
Yep.
Also, we got the Attitude commercial. This is the introduction of WWF Attitude.
Mm-hmm.
So, those things obviously got overshadowed, but very important things that happened on this event.
And a much lesser note, Steve Blackman's in-ring debut.
Yeah.
Yep. D'Lo Brown getting to shine like the beautiful man he is.
With his ball hit mocking.
So, Joseph, did you get some numbers, some Observer numbers for us?
I do. The reaction from the Observer readers was very down the middle. 39% thumbs up, 29% thumbs down, and the rest in the middle. The best match was voted as Shawn Michaels versus Bret Hart. The worst match was voted to be the Truth Commission versus the DOA.
Fuck 'em.
Wow, what a shocker.
The headline from Dave here was, "It will go down in history as the single most famous finish of a pro wrestling match in the modern era."
Yep.
And that still rings true today. So hit the nail on the head there. And that is all.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. Well said, Dave. Probably with little to no punctuation, but still well said.
0.
That is it, folks. We are done with this one. I want to thank you again for joining us. If you like what we're doing here and want to connect with us, you can email us at WRASSLINRAW. Just add @gmail.com to the end of that to submit questions or comments. Check us out on social media and on every podcast subscription platform. While you're there, don't forget to follow and subscribe to get every episode of Wrasslin Raw coming to you every week. Give us a 5-star review and tell all your friends to tune in to the most questionable Monday Night Raw review podcast on the airwaves. So, for Joe and Ryan, I'm Jason. This has been Wrasslin Raw.